If you ask a New Yorker what's their favorite building in NYC, chances are they might say the Empire State or the Chrysler. But many real New Yorkers will likely tell you it's the Helmsley Building.
Helmsley was initially called the New York Central Building.
Construction of the New York Central Building began in 1926.
New York Railroad Company wanted to build a railway station in Midtown.
With the creation of Grand Central, the chief engineer of the project, William Wilgus, aimed to create a terminal city.
It took just 3 years to complete this Beaux-Arts masterpiece.
Helmsley was initially built for and by the New York Central Railroad Company in 1929.
It changed names several times from New York Central Building to New York General Building to now what it's known as the Helmsley Building.
The Helmsley stands 565 feet tall and boasts 1.4 million square feet of premium office space.
It's a privilege to stand before you and acknowledge the history and continued importance that this elegant building has.
The Helmsley is the Beaux-Arts masterpiece that lights up among the canyon of towers.
It is clear why we call 230 Park Avenue the crown jewel of Park Avenue.
But what makes the Helmsley a true crown jewel? And where does the name Helmsley even come from? Let's investigate. The story of the Helmsley Building begins in the early 1900s with one man, William J. Wilgus.
William J. Wilgus, chief engineer for the New York Central.
William Wilgus is recognized by the American Society for Civil Engineers, and I think that recognition is well deserved.
Wilgus was a trained civil engineer working for the New York Central Railroad Company. New York Central Railroad was controlled by billionaire Cornelius Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt was one of the richest family names in America and synonymous with the railroad empire.
Cornelius Vanderbilt was the archetype of this figure. He was not a financier in the modern sense. He was an empire builder.
Cornelius Vanderbilt was one of the richest men in the world when he died, estimated at about like $170 billion in today's dollars.
By 1903, Wilgus rose through the ranks and became the railroad company's vice president. At the time, New York faced two problems: a desperate need for office space and the steam railways. Engines filled the city with smoke, soot, and tragedy. One deadly accident killed 15 commuters.
2 steam engines crashed together head-on.
Both of the steam boilers exploded.
But where others saw chaos, Wilgus saw opportunity.
With the creation of Grand Central, the chief engineer of the project, William Wilgus, aimed to create a terminal city, which was an effort to surround the terminal with housing, hotels, and office space.
Right.
It was about reshaping Midtown Manhattan and using electricity, pretty novel stuff for that scale back then.
His idea? Electrify the trains, bury the tracks, build a city above them. That underground station became Grand Central Terminal, and the city above it, the Terminal City.
Behind me is Grand Central Terminal, one of the most famous train stations in the United States.
At its heart stood Park Avenue, but there was a challenge. Grand Central sat directly on top of the avenue, splitting it in two. Wilgus had already thought of that. In his blueprints, Park Avenue split at the southern end of the terminal and merged back together at 230 Park Avenue.
To make that possible, engineers built a viaduct around the terminal.
When Grand Central was built, it was blocking what became Park Avenue. So William Wilgus, the chief engineer, designed a viaduct that went all the way around Grand Central so Park Avenue could continue from north to south.
And at that exact point stands the final piece of Wilgus's vision, the New York Central Building, what we now call the Helmsley. The New York Central Railroad Company wanted their own crown jewel in Terminal City. They chose the spot 230 Park Avenue. Initially, the board members of the railroad company dreamed of 2 towers straddling Park Avenue. But in 1924, the plan was streamlined, a single commanding 34-story structure. At this time, Wilgus was not part of the project or the railroad company. Warren and Wetmore, the same masterminds behind Grand Central Terminal, took over the project. At the height of their career, Warren and Wetmore had one of the most extensive portfolios in the country.
Or Warren and Wetmore, who took on projects that were vastly larger scale.
Warren and Wetmore built the Chrysler Building, the Biltmore Hotel, and the Grand Central Terminal.
Whitney Warren, the co-founder, had even spent a decade at the legendary École des Beaux-Arts in Paris, a school with over 350 years of history, shaping Europe's greatest artists and architects. Warren had family ties to the powerful name in the industry, the Vanderbilts. This gave Warren the influence to shape not just Grand Central, but the city itself. Warren's designs radiated Beaux-Arts grandeur. He brought that very style to the New York Central Building. The foundation work began in December 1926, but building here was not simple. Engineers had to thread the foundation beams like a needle to avoid the active train tracks below. The movement of the active trains also caused a rumble. So engineers wrapped the beams in cork tubes and poured lead and asbestos mats to absorb the vibrations. For the foundation, engineers bore massive beams 50 feet deep right between the tracks. The beams were so big they bypassed city streets entirely, delivered straight to the site by rail. By November 1927, the foundation was complete and the construction crew started the work on the building. Warren included the Park Avenue split into the design of the building. 2 short tunnels that became an iconic spot with traffic flowing directly through the building's base. The New York Central Building itself topped out at 34 stories and finished in September 1929. Construction used a total of 26,922 tons of structural steel, with 9,000 tons just for the foundation. At 565 feet, it was a massive building for that time. From its inception in 1929 to 1963, Helmsley was the crown jewel of Park Avenue, because in 1963, a monstrosity, MetLife,
opened in 1963. It wasn't just the largest commercial office building on Earth, it became the most hated structure in New York.
Formerly Pan Am, rose right behind at 808 feet. The MetLife building dwarfs the majestic Helmsley, but it is no competition. Helmsley is a timeless monument, a star of Park Avenue and a Beaux-Arts jewel. Warren and Wetmore stamped the Helmsley's facade with unmistakable grandeur. The base of the building comes alive in a very peculiar way. 2 S-shaped ramps carry Park Avenue traffic straight through the building. This was the bold engineering solution that still wows drivers and architects alike. The building's base is covered in Texas pink granite and limestone, and 2 large entrances for Park Avenue. Above the entrance, a 9-foot clock stares down the lane. By its side, the clock has monumental figures of mercury and industry, symbols of speed, progress, and power. The upper stories feature the iconic brick look and paired windows. There are 74 6-foot terracotta bison heads lining the cornice on the 15th floor, a salute to America's strength and frontier spirit. The gods and the bison heads were sculpted by Edward McCartan, an American sculptor famous for his elegant 1920s decorative bronzes. McCartan was an honored member of the National Sculpture Society. Rising above McCartan's sculpted figures, nearly at the top, 32 Corinthian columns march across the facade. Each stretches 3 stories. For decades, the design gave way to the railroad's headquarters, and topping it all, the gilded copper cupola. The Helmsley Building glitters with timeless majesty. The facade is only the prologue. The real story begins once you step inside the Helmsley. Inside the Helmsley Building feels like another world. The entrance doors are framed in bronze grills. The marble lobby gleams with bronze chandeliers. Look up and you'll see detailed crown molding running along the ceiling. Even the elevators are painted in a striking Chinese red, with gilded domes and cloudscapes on the ceiling. It's not just transit, it's theater. Bronze reliefs pop out everywhere you look. The New York Central initials repeat like a mantra, celebrating the power of industry and transportation. But beauty often hides conflict. Behind the marble and bronze, the Helmsley became the crown jewel no one could keep. When it opened in 1929, the building was known as the New York Central Building, home to the railroad company's headquarters. In 1958, Irving Brodsky of New York Bank for Savings leased the building for 50 years. Brodsky renamed the tower New York General Building. In 1978, billionaire real estate moguls Harry and Leona Helmsley bought the tower for $26 million, $7 million in cash plus $19 million in 33.5-year mortgage.
How much of all of this do you Helmsleys own? Do you Helmsleys own? Harry owns, well, I don't know. But you own Harry. No, I don't own Harry. I love Harry.
The Helmsleys were one of the country's biggest property holders, owning the Empire State Building and the Ritz-Carlton. And the tower became part of their growing empire.
Leona Helmsley, queen of the Helmsley hotel chain, reigned supreme for years.
Harry's family name, Helmsley, stuck to the building. After the Helmsleys, the building passed through a string of owners: Max Capital Management, Dubai-based Istithmar World, Goldman Sachs, Monday Properties, and RXR Realty. Through it all, the name Helmsley endured, a crown jewel in Manhattan that refused to lose its identity. In 1987, Landmarks Preservation Commission designated both the Helmsley's exterior and the first floor interior as a landmark, recognizing the Helmsley's Beaux-Arts facade and glam interiors. Nearly a century later, the building still commands Park Avenue, standing as a testament of New York's ever-shifting skyline. The Helmsley's beauty isn't just in its past. It still shines today, lighting up Midtown in style. In daylight, the copper roof and pale stones shimmer across the avenue. From dusk to dawn, the Helmsley's lights transform the landmark into a Midtown beacon. The colors shift and dance, marking holidays, events, and causes. For decades, only the cupola was lit at night. But in 2012, the entire building underwent a full lighting retrofit.
As operators flipped the switch on its brand new exterior LED lighting system,
the old sodium lamps were replaced with a computer-controlled system of over 700 color-changing LEDs. From steady single colors to shifting sequences, the Helmsley now transforms into a responsive canvas after dark. At Christmas, the tower lights itself in red and green. Multicolored celebrations on New Year's Eve, leprechaun green for St. Patrick's Day, the tower is lit up in red, white, and blue on the 4th of July. Helmsley becomes part of the city's rhythm, and it also tells stories. Purple for Women's Equality Day, orange to honor the victims of the Las Vegas shooting, each glow sends a message: solidarity, remembrance, celebration. So what is the Helmsley Building today? Trains rumble below it, cars zoom through it. It is the skyscraper that watches over the northern part of Park Avenue. So let me ask you, what do you find interesting about the Helmsley? Do you just see another office tower, or do you see Wilgus's passion come to life? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Houzeo. See you in the next one.